Hi everyone, welcome to People for Bikes Industry Webinar Series. This is Morgan Lomley. I'm the State and Local Policy Director here at People for Bikes, and I'm pleased to kick off our latest webinar. Today we'll be covering UL 2849, a recent standard that has implications for the e-bike industry on complete e-bike systems. Next slide. We are joined by a guest, Ibrahim Jilani from UL. Ibrahim will have a second to introduce himself, and he'll be your presenter on today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items. We'll keep the webinar to about 20 to 25 minutes. We'll be done at 1/2 but I always like to make time for questions from our participants. So in your little webinar widget here, there's a spot for you to ask questions, and we'll have time at the end to address most, if not all, of those. This webinar is recorded. It will be distributed to all participants after the webinar is complete, so you can refer back to it, and it'll be posted on our People for Bikes website as well. Last but not least, the content we present today would not be available to you all without the support of People for Bikes Coalition members. People for Bikes is the 501c6 bicycle industry trade association, and our mission is to get more people riding bikes more often, and we benefit from the support of more than 200 various industry members, including UL. So thank you to UL, to all of the industry members on the phone today. If you're not already a member and would like to support our work and a lot of this continuing education that we do for the bike industry, please reach out to my colleague Eric after the webinar. So with that, I'll let Ibrahim take it away.
Thank you, Morgan. I'd like to introduce this topic, UL 2849, and I'll give you an introduction of myself first, and then we'll move into the topic of the standard. Go ahead, Eric, and move it to the next slide. Can you go ahead to the bio slide? So background on me. I've been with UL for 15 years. I'm responsible for the product safety of consumer technology. There's various areas of product safety that we in Consumer Technology Division of UL look into. We certainly look into things that are in the high-tech industry and things like AR, VR equipment, batteries, battery-operated end products, electronic controls, lasers and LEDs, like optical radiation-related topic. Micromobility, which is e-bikes, of course, and robotics. My job is obviously to interface with the industry to help understand your concerns as an industry and ensure that the safety standards and the work that UL does to work for a safer living and working environment for all people can be achieved. Go ahead to the next slide. Little background on UL for those of you in the audience who are not familiar with us. UL is a science and global expertise company. What that means is that we are constantly studying safety science, and we're constantly investing in top technical expertise to address the needs of industry. We operate in 100 countries, and we are a mission-driven company with employees in 40 countries. About 60% of the Fortune 500 and Global 500 companies work with us. We do more than just safety certification. We actually do quite a bit amount of work in transaction security. We also have software solutions that are being used by many different industries and many different organizations. And we also offer sustainability certifications for various sustainability programs that exist around the world. To date, we have over 1,600 standards that have been defined. A majority has been around product safety, specifically electric shock and fire. And then we also have standards that go into security, quality, and sustainability. Next slide, please. So UL, other purpose other than being a safety science and a technical expert is to help our customers with their brand presence and their leadership. We are, a company that the work we do, we make sure and we ensure that there's trust and integrity with the way we do our product safety evaluations and certifications, which then in turn turns into brand trust for our customers. So it's really apparent when you start looking at some of these statistics. 88% of the U.S. built environment authorities, which those are your electrical inspectors, your fire marshals, your building inspectors, 88% of them trust and accept the UL mark based on some of the studies that UL has run. And 94% of the authorities are familiar with UL compared to the next neighboring testing and inspection certification company. So that's very important that as manufacturers in the e-bike industry, you all choose partners and service providers that are recognized and trusted for the work they do. Our work also reaches 2 billion consumers every year, and we have tens of billions of certified product that enter the market every year, not just in the US market, but around the globe. Over 2/3 of the US retailers prefer the UL mark compared to other certification marks. And to ensure the brand protection of our customers, we invest heavily in protecting from counterfeit goods. So in 2018 alone, there was 108,000 products that bore counterfeit UL marks that we seized, and that was worth a couple $1 million to the industry. So now the big question for the e-bike industry that I want to help answer is, what does third-party certification mean and what can it do for you? And really breaks down into 4 main things. There is a corporate social responsibility that by using a product safety standard and a notable third-party certification company, it decreases the risk of fire or explosion related to e-bikes near people or property. Product liability, as you are looking at what are your concerns as manufacturers and brands of e-bikes, products that are certified generally reduce the risk of lawsuits and recalls because it demonstrates due diligence, and we'll talk more about why that is. Market preference. Products that bear certification tend to be more attractive to the market because consumers or businesses who look for the certification can find it on that high-risk good. And in many studies that I found, e-bikes are showing up on the high-risk goods kind of list because of the sizable battery systems and electric motor systems that are on e-bikes. Counterfeit protection is also critical from a third-party certification organization, and by having a third party that's relied upon, there can be tighter control of your supply chain and component parts to ensure that the electrical systems that are being put into the e-bike systems continue to make and meet the noted UL 2849 standard. Next slide, please. For the CSR side of this, one of the things to really take note of is that it's starting to pop up on the regulators' agendas that e-bikes can have a serious safety risk. And there was a couple of reports that got issued in March and April of this year. In March, there was an update to the high energy density battery project, which was done in 2017 and then received an update this past March, where it was documented that over 25,000 battery operated product incidences have occurred across 480 different types of products, which includes e-bikes. E-bikes was one of the product categories that was mentioned in that report. And also a month later, in April, a second report was issued by the Consumer Product Safety Commission, where they've documented over 450,000 annual bicycle injuries and more than 1,000 deaths, which include e-bike. And depending on how the incident reported, they believe that there may be some higher numbers there because of the reporting style. It may not have been noted 100% that it was e-bike related, but they're starting to take notice and starting to think through how to categorize incidences that are because of e-bikes, as it's specifically related to fire, explosion, mechanical hazards, electric shock hazards, causality hazards, and be able to know whether it was a general bicycle or if it was an e-bike. Next slide, please. So what's the concern with e-bikes? Why do battery operated products tend to have a higher safety risk profile? And really there's numerous things that can cause the design of an e-bike to malfunction or to result in a fire or explosion hazard. It starts with the cells, that the battery cells that are inside the product have some defects. Moving further along, external stresses, the normal foreseeable misuse of a particular product can cause external stresses that if the design did not properly think through could cause a failure to the system. The electronics, the control systems have deficiencies, and they are not properly addressing things like temperature or voltage or current. There can also be short circuits where if things are not secured properly, like the terminals of the battery cells or the wiring that goes from the battery pack to the electric motor, if that shorts, it can cause an inadvertent hazard where now a fire and explosion risk is greatly increased. Also, some of the material properties of choosing the plastic materials that house the electric motor, the battery pack, the e-bike controller, or the charger, that can cause weakness that can weaken over time and then result in a exposure of live parts, current carrying parts, that could get exposed to water, that can get exposed to dust, and all of that can cause electric system malfunction. A number of product categories have also seen incidences similar to what we're seeing with e-bikes, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Battery packs within the electric bikes also have, some very important concerns to keep an eye on. Things like the cell choice. Is it the same cell being made by the same manufacturer and the same model, or is it a combination of different cell manufacturers, which then can result in different internal resistances of the cells, which then becomes a safety risk if not properly managed. Also, the battery management systems can have a lack of temperature, charge, and discharge controls, as well as a lack of redundancy or a lack of communication and coordination, which then can result in improper thermal control. So a lot of that can be addressed by doing a proper failure mode effect analysis. But battery management systems, by themselves, without having a failure mode and a study on that, can cause the battery management system to be deficient, which then results in an improper choice of technology for the application. So kind of a timeline of the increase of events for the last 15 years. Starting back in 2005, notebook computers started to use lithium batteries quite a bit. And as we saw with notebook computers, they went from the nickel metal hydride to the lithium technologies, and they experienced a round of incidences, and the safety standards around that ended up getting updated. The UL 60950 standard was the primary one, which now is UL 62368, has been replaced by that standard. That is now, very, very comprehensive on the battery safety protection that goes for a notebook computer. Similarly, an e-cigarette, a power bank, and a hoverboard, they have had incidences in recent years, and all three of those categories have had UL standards published, like UL 8139, UL 2056, and UL 2272, to address the hazards of those products. And those industries have adopted the standards, their respective standards, to help them mitigate the hazards. Cell phones, portable electronics, and pathway e-scooters have been noted in most recent years. And then 2019 was actually pretty pronounced that there was a lot of e-bike fires happening around the world. And a lot of them were being reported by media outlets, not only in the US, but across the globe. So to address this issue, to have good corporate social responsibility and to have good product liability, UL 2849 is a standard that tries to address the safety of e-bikes in a system approach. So it's taking into account how and what materials and how and what components are being employed in the system. Starting with the battery cell, does the battery cell meet its notable electrical and mechanical requirements? Then it moves up to look at the battery pack and looks at seeing that the battery pack prevents fire propagation, that the battery management system has been properly made to address thermal protection and current and voltage protection, and also make sure that there's balance between the cells so that they're properly being charged and discharged. Then when you get up to the e-bike level, things like the electric motor and the e-bike controller are being introduced to the system. Those components, along with the battery pack and lower level battery cell, all of those have to work together harmoniously, and that they all have to work as a system and not against each other. There are cases where I've seen that an e-bike is created where the electric motor's ratings and outputs and inputs don't match the battery pack or the charger, and then that results in a system that's not stable, and over a period of time, the system will not survive, or it could result in a fire explosion hazard. And finally, the charging system, the battery charger that goes along with the e-bike, all of these have to work harmoniously with each other. Next slide, please. So what you all did to apply the system approach is we gathered industry experts. We talked to a number of manufacturers, a number of folks in the supply chain, government regulators, general industry stakeholders, and pulled together what's called a UL Standard Technical Panel. And the Standard Technical Panel is a not-for-profit activity. It's done by our Underwriters Laboratories Incorporated, which is the parent company for UL. And this group of standard development, what they do is they administer the program for developing standards, and they involve industry, and it's a purely free, voluntary-based system where you can participate in developing standards. The responsibility of an STP is to review, comment, and vote on proposal for new standards, as well as revisions to existing standards. STPs are made up of a balanced group of individuals representing various interest categories, and the intent is to develop a true consensus document. So that picture, before we flip the slide, is the actual picture of the UL 2849 Standard Technical Panel that participated in developing UL 2849. This was in May of 2019, 1 year ago. In 2019, the 16 members that were part of the UL Standard Technical Panel for UL 2849 consisted of the following members. There was 3 in the general category, 1 from the government category, 5 from the producer category, 2 from the supply chain, and 5 testing and standard organizations. And just kind of a snippet of some of the members are listed there on the right. University of British Columbia in Canada participated as a voting member. National Research Council of Canada participated. U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission participated, but as a non-voting member, they chose to not vote but still contribute to the standard development. And then a number of e-bike producers, including Trek, UberJump, Panasonic, Robert Bosch, all participated. And from the supply chain, both upstream and downstream, Best Buy, who is a procurer of e-bikes and then sells it as a retailer, as well as SRAM, who helped design components for the e-bike systems, they participated as well. UL participates and also only gets 1 vote. So out of the 16 members, we only get 1 vote, just like everybody else. So when UL publishes a standard, I wanted it to be clear to the industry that we are in no way, shape, or form dictating requirements. We are contributing with our safety science knowledge, and we're working with industry to address their concerns, and everybody gets equal vote in the standard. Of the 16 members, 3 of the members are actually People for Bike, e-bike subcommittee members, Trek Bicycle, Robert Bosch, and SRAM. So we had, involvement from People for Bikes, and we're very thankful for that. Next slide. Yeah, and so now this is how the voting system works. The vote due date was on December 23rd. 16 out of the 16 people who voted yes, so it was a complete consensus. And a week and a half after that date, on January 2nd, the national standard for United States and the national standard for Canada was published. So UL 2849 is the accredited national standard for electric system safety for e-bikes by both the US and Canada authorities. And it can be accessed for those who need or want to look into it further or to read a digital free copy. You can find that on shopulstandards.com. Shortly after the standard got published, and while we were at the Consumer Electronics Show, also in January earlier this year, UL did announce that we had our first certification. That was a win for public safety, in my opinion, and in many people's opinion. That was issued to Panasonic. Their system did meet UL 2849. UL 2849 generally covers the following types of categories: e-bikes that are typically fit to operate and over-the-road use, as well as pedal-X or pedal-assisted electric cycles. We do include throttle-based cycles. So throttle-based cycles are allowed to be covered by UL 2849 as well. The risk of fire, explosion, and electric shock are the primary focus of the standard. The standard does not evaluate the operator's ability to maintain control while riding. One important note that I want to share on this slide is I really feel that because of COVID-19, that because other forms of public transportation are finding themselves as being less desirable, This is a really important moment for the e-bike and bicycle industry. I think it's already been noted by an earlier webinar by People for Bikes how much the industry has grown. And I would like to say that having third-party certification will help this industry avoid any setbacks. Because if a large group of e-bikes enter the market in the US or anywhere else in the world, and there is no safety profile behind it, and some incidences occur, and no third-party certification had been issued by any organization, the industry gets blamed rather than get protected, because the industry didn't do their corporate social responsibility, they didn't think through their product liability, and then ultimately they didn't think through what the market preferred, which was to see third-party certified product on the market. Next slide, please. So here's just a high-level snapshot of what to expect when you're approaching UL to get certified to UL 2849. The standard has a lot of construction and component requirements. From a component requirement, if your battery charger meets one of the 4 standards listed there, just one of them, does not have to meet all of them, then that is a check mark that you have a battery charger that's suitable to be used in a UL 2849 application. The traction battery, the light EV battery pack that's part of the e-bike should meet UL 2271. That's the most appropriate standard to meet. And that the battery management system of that traction battery meets the functional safety standards. One set of standards is UL 1998 plus UL 991. Now, if you found a battery pack that meets 2271, normally these subcomponent systems have already met their requirements, so should be very easy then to get the e-bike certification program going, because your component has met its requirements. If you're introducing non-traction battery packs, like a battery pack for a lighting accessory or some other kind of function that you want to provide for your e-bike, then that non-traction battery pack must meet the household and commercial battery pack or portable battery standard, UL 2054 or 62133-2. Electric motors are to meet UL 1004-1. E-bike controllers, just like the battery management systems, need to demonstrate functional safety. If you have a combined e-bike controller with battery management system, then this evaluation only needs to take place once. It doesn't need to be repeated. So a combined system is allowed to be evaluated just one time. And then the materials and components that make up the e-bike system, those need to meet their relevant UL standards. Next slide, please. The test program is fairly straightforward. Actually, those first 4 tests, the input, temperature, isolation, resistance, and dielectric strength, you would find that in almost every electric product safety standard that is in existence. Almost all of them have that sequence. So that's a very known safety program to run on any type of electrical piece of equipment. Humidity, abnormal operations, impact, mold stress, flexing, ingress protection, all of those are very normal. You'll see it on most electrical products as well. Permanence of marking, which is if you have a way of marking your product with the ratings and warnings and the certification mark that's not imprinted but it's printed, you know, you're silk screening it or something like that, then you have to make sure that those markings have permanence to them. So it's a pretty straightforward test to check for that. Vibration and strain relief is pretty self-explanatory for the e-bike market. And then these last 2 tests, startup assistance mode and motor assistance, those are very critical for the kind of applications where you may walk next to your e-bike and utilize the assist mode to help you walk with the e-bike, but you want to make sure that the e-bike doesn't just pull out from underneath the user. So these tests are there to ensure that they stay below their threshold speeds and are doing the function appropriately. Next slide, please. I'm aware of the time, Morgan, so I'm trying to wrap up. Counterfeit protection. Why get UL certification? One of the main reasons is that the UL holographic label is an anti-counterfeit device. Our label is used by those in industry, and it's a part of the training that we give to the Department of Justice and Immigration Customs Enforcement, as well as others, on how to look for genuine UL versus counterfeit UL. And it's pretty, there's some tools that we have that allow for there to be, very easily to identify and spot a fake versus the holographic label that UL issues. And we control the supply chain of those labels. So seeing that mark is a definite sign of public safety. It's also a sign of industry transparency, and it's also a way to gain regulator trust. Some of the feedback directly from the CPSC is in these blue boxes, that CPSC staff strongly recommend that manufacturers, exporters, importers seek third-party certification for their electrical products as a means of hazard mitigation. And they also say have third-party certification from an accredited laboratory like UL, have product safety standards that are continuously updated to address hazards identified by incident data. Next slide, please. And this is another slide that came from their March 2020 report, where they say that manufacturers and importers should follow best practices to ensure their products do not pose substantial risk of injury and need to be recalled, comply with consensus standards and technical regulations, obtain third-party certification for products, maintain quality and configuration control, as well as assess impact of material or component substitutions. So great news is UL is maintaining its standards and updating constantly, and we will take any industry feedback if there's some updates that needs to be done on one of our standards. We're also, as a company, making sure that we're holistic to the e-bike market to address all of the needs that you guys may have. I know beyond the safety profile, the interoperability or the radio performance, as well as EMC wireless compliance is also very critical. We have a whole team of people that do market access and can help you enter into various countries and markets around the world, as well as providing all the functional safety and battery safety services directly with UL. We have those capabilities. So thank you very much. And before we turn it over to questions, just want to say to everybody, if you have any questions, whether they're about a quote or just general inquiries, ctech@ul.com is a way to reach out to us, and ul.com/micromobility is where you can find out more information about our e-bike service offerings as well. So
Great,
they can skip over that.
This is
You
Morgan.
can skip over this.
Oh, what's that?
Go ahead, Morgan.
Okay. We have a couple questions here. So Michael asked, how do you get the free copy online? And yeah, is there a code or how can people access that?
How can people access the standard? Is that the question?
Yeah. For free.
Yeah, so shopulstandards.com. That website has a digital free copy available. If you go to shopulstandards.com, all one word, and type in 2849, then you can register a free account and be able to read a digital view of UL 2849. If you want a printed copy, then you can look to purchase it. If you're already a UL client, meaning that you have UL listings for other types of equipment that your company makes, then you already have free access to the UL standards, and just approach your gatekeeper, your My UL portal person within your company, and they can get you a free copy. If you need help with that, you can reach out to UL. We'll help you with that.
Excellent. Michael also asked, who would be the right contact at UL for questions and support? Would that be you, Ibrahim, with the email address on the screen?
ctech@ul.com is right now the better address because it's managed by more than just myself. If there's something specific to the content of this presentation and you want some clarity, by all means, the team can reach out to me, whoever wants to. I'm happy to help answer, or I will involve the appropriate person to help answer the question.
So say that email address again for just general questions.
ctech, C-T-E-C-H, ctech@ul.com.
Okay, great.
It's also on an earlier slide of the presentation.
All right, last question from Martin here. How will the standards be pushed down to manufacturers and then communicated to the public at retail outlets? So you did cover that a little bit, but maybe expand on that.
So from a manufacturer perspective, this education series right now is informing you that yes, there's a national electrical system safety standard, and that is the early notice. Consumer Product Safety Commission has already noted this standard in their April 2020 report, so it's actually in a published technical report from them. The retailers, e-tailers do discuss standards with UL, so many of them are in fact in touch with us, asking us questions about UL 2849, which I'm helping to answer. So I do think that the retailers are very well aware that an e-bike standard has been published and that they're assessing their own procurement policies around that.
Excellent. Sam asked, let's see, who are the accredited agencies approved for UL 2849?
So I can only speak for UL. We are a approved organization and we have a full certification program for that. There may be other companies that offer third-party certification as well for this topic. But obviously I'm speaking on behalf of UL that we do offer it. Typically, national recognized test laboratories, though, are the general group that offer third-party certification for electrical standards. And that's OSHA terminology, national recognized test laboratory.
Okay, last question here from Michael. What's the typical cost and timeline to achieve UL certification?
Great question. The timeline, it really depends on how many of your subcomponents have met their respective standards. If there's, a few of them that have, we typically can finish a project within 2 months. That's typically a turnaround time that we do. It's just a matter of seeing what information and how accessible the samples are. As a manufacturer, are you going to be able to send us those samples within a couple of weeks, or is it going to take you about a month and a half? That all factors into the time frame of how long the certification project will go. The cost, again, it'll go back to what elements do you need? Do you need to get just the e-bike, or do you need the e-bike plus the battery pack plus functional safety? We can walk through that with any manufacturer individually. Generally speaking, it's pennies for what the entire e-bike market is valued. So if you think about the e-bike market as valued as a certain amount, typically testing, inspection, certification don't even add up to 1% of that total market value. So we have a project that costs a certain amount of dollars, and then that's it. It's a single project, and whatever volume that manufacturer sells, the certification it doesn't result in a volume that as you increase in volume that now UL gets more of that. No, we stick to just one project. We're a service-based company. We're not involved in the volumes that are sold.
Great. We are going to cut it off there. And if you have any follow-up questions about the content shared today, feel welcome to email Ibrahim, myself, you're hearing from Morgan right now, or my colleague Eric at People for Bikes. And on behalf of the three of us and everyone at People for Bikes and UL, thank you for your time. It's our pleasure to provide these educational resources to the industry, and we're always open to ideas on other topics you'd like us to cover. And again, if you're not a People for Bikes Coalition member and would like to support this work through membership dues, that is always welcome as well. So thank you to our members. Thank you for everyone today, and have a great day.
Thank you.